I want to make that very clear. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today is really more so about the context and the backstory for how my daughter got here. If you do not know, I am a Christian. I do believe the Bible is the final authority just on life in general. So that's just to let you know a little bit where my spiritual religious views are. That being said, I wanted to discuss this because there are some people who have blatantly said things regarding my having a child and have subtly asked without just outright coming and questioning it. So let's just address the elephant in the room, okay? I am not married, okay? For those of you who know the Bible, sex outside of marriage is not permitted, right? It's disobedience to God, it is sin. Obviously, we know how babies get here. I did indeed have sex outside of marriage, and as a result of that, I did get pregnant and I had my beautiful daughter. Now, let me just throw this out here. This is not in response to those people who have asked how I came to be pregnant. I even had somebody post on my Facebook page blatantly saying, "Oh, I didn't know you were married," when I actually announced that I was pregnant and having a daughter. Granted, I do feel like because I've been very public, at least amongst my following and my family and friends and people in my immediate world, about being a Christian, and having an avid Christian faith, actually walking in my faith. This video is not for that. It's really not. It more so is for those who are in my situation or have been in my situation, who can relate or connect to what I'm saying. And hopefully it offers some type of hope and redemption for those people. So nevertheless, let's just start by me saying I was very much practicing celibacy when I got pregnant with my daughter. So I became I guess you could say, born again Christian, a redeemed believer, back in 2014. So late 2014, as a matter of fact, it was November 2014 when I rededicated my life to Christ, as some may say. I actually grew up in the church, so I was very familiar with the Christian faith. However, I got saved or baptized and saved when I was maybe in middle school, maybe even elementary school. So at the time, while I do firmly believe that I had some understanding and comprehension of what I was doing, I didn't necessarily have the spiritual disciplines in place. I definitely had family who I would observe pray and read the scriptures. So I did witness those things, but it wasn't they weren't things that I implemented personally for my own relationship with Christ. So again, just to give a little backstory, after going through grade school and then off to college, obviously, and just experiencing things in my own personal life in my young adulthood, I decided to rededicate my life to Christ when I was that was 2014, so I was 25, 26, somewhere in there. I was very zealous for God at that point. I actually started doing a lot of community service. I was living in New York at the time. I started doing a lot of community service, at least out of a heart that desired to do what was pleasing in the sight of God. So I was being celibate at that time. I had been in a physical relationship prior to rededicating my life to Christ with someone. And once I turned the new leaf, had my spiritual awakening, it was very clear to me at that time that he and I were not going to be able to continue our relationship. So, a couple of years went by, and I started doing missionary work. And so I actually posted a video about that, about some of the work that we were doing, if you want to go and check it out. So yeah, went and did my missions work. At that time, I felt pressed on my heart to actually reach out to the same guy that I had been involved with, and see how he was doing. I was so, like I said, super zealous for the Lord, and what I felt like an early believer. You know, when you have that new love for God in the very beginning, it's kind of like you just want to go all in, like you really want to do the most. And so I was convinced in my mind and my heart at this time that I could bring him to Christ. I took it upon myself, like I said, to try and build a relationship with him again. Not an intimate relationship, but just a true friendship, you know, feeling like we could actually be platonic friends, and that not only could I maybe help him through that trying time in his life, but that, you know, perhaps again I could, you know, bring him to Christ. Obviously, there was a history between him and I, and so it became very difficult to try and maintain not only just a platonic friendship with him, but a pure relationship with him. So at that time, again, we just kind of slowly stopped talking. We would talk here and there. I, you know, came back home after doing my missions trip, and you know, got reacclimated to the area that I was in at the time. I started working with a company that would permit me to travel. I traveled to cities that were relatively close to where the same guy lived. Okay, like I mean within a 30-minute radius. And the first time I went on this trip, I said, you know what, it'd be cool to see him, you know. We could probably hang out, have a good time, just catch up. You know, I'm here for work anyway, so it's not like it would go any further or be anything else. I decided not to reach out. I was supposed to go back to the same location for work, this time with a different person on my team that I would be leading and developing. She ended up bailing. She actually ended up quitting altogether, and so while I was already set up, you know, my trip and expenses and everything were paid for, I was already set up to go on this trip. There was no one else who would actually be going with me. And so I decided to actually reach out to him this time. So I reach out, you know, ask him how he's doing. I let him know I'm in the city, I'm close by. We ended up linking up. He actually came and scooped me up. He actually picked me up. And I think we went back to his town. You know, we hung out for a little bit, grabbed a bite to eat. I ended up going to his place, and I ended up falling again. So the next day, he took me back to my hotel. You know, I finished out my work trip, and I returned back home. But he and I continued to talk from that point on. We were miles apart, okay? So it wasn't very convenient for us to fall into that sort of physical situation again. Nevertheless, our conversations, you know, would play off of that at times. At that point, I was like, yeah, no, this is not the type of relationship that I want to entertain. This is not, you know, this is not what I'm trying to do right now. I'm still trying to live an upright and holy life. I'm still trying to maintain my celibacy, or at least regain my celibacy. Pandemic hits. I had just moved into my own place, a new place rather, and I was working a lot at this time. So I was working 2 jobs. I had stopped working for the other firm that I was traveling with and found something that was stable. You know, a basic 9-to-5 position, basically working Monday through Friday. On top of that, I was also working as a night auditor at a hotel full time. So I was working at the time like 70 plus hours a week. I literally had no time for anything else except sleep, eat, and work. Like that was my full routine: sleep, eat, and work, sleep, eat, and work. And oftentimes I was only getting like 2 to 4 hours of sleep at any given time. So I was really tired. And I did that for almost 9 months. So early 2022, I resigned from my full-time position. I decided I was going to come up north. I do want to preface this next part by saying, while I did make several trips to job hunt and look for apartments, my initial trip was just a break from working so much to get a feel for the city and check out the culture and just fun things to do. It was supposed to be a fun trip. I had come, like I said, I was looking for different positions and trying to interview and even just looking for places to stay at the time. But I also had to find just some fun things to do around town. I had like a whole itinerary planned out to go to the museums, to different restaurants, try different foods. So during this period, I reconnected with the old friend. We did end up getting together, and that is in fact when I conceived my child. And so, I mean, really, that's the long and the short of it. It was not intended. Some of you may hear me talking about this and say, well, it had happened before, so of course you should have known it would happen again. Why didn't you put better boundaries in place if you were going to be in, the same vicinity or the same location as him? And I did. At the time, I took the measures that I thought were necessary. The very trip where I ended up actually getting pregnant, I had my own place. I was staying in an Airbnb, and it was never my intention for us to hang out there, and allow for something like that to happen. But it did, that was the situation. We obviously were very just comfortable around each other. And so naturally, when you're really comfortable with someone, it's very easy to find yourself in situations like that. You can both be very inviting, very open, very vulnerable. And so that's very much what it was. Moving forward, I think it's just going to be a matter of putting healthy boundaries in place, and really just keeping a distance. My focus primarily right now is definitely on my daughter and making sure that she is protected and taken care of. I do think it's good that she sees at least a healthy, cohesive relationship between us. That's not hostile and that's not, combative or just displays just a poor relationship between men and women. I definitely don't want her to see that. Certainly not between her mother and her father. So, we're working on it. I'm a work in progress. I am thankful for the forgiveness and the grace and the mercy that God grants to us as His sons and daughters who fall short of His glory all the time. So I definitely don't feel any shame. There's no guilt or condemnation in Christ. Romans 8:1. So I don't feel any type of shame about that. I'm certainly not ashamed of my daughter. She's beautiful, and like I said, she's the blessing I never knew I needed. I just, I want to put it out there for anybody who may be experiencing what I have experienced, am experiencing, because again, I'm still walking through it. I'm still trying to draw healthy boundaries. I'm just thankful that I can still find grace and mercy and love in the comfort of Jesus' arms, and that He still loves me in spite of my shortcomings and my flaws. And so I just hope that speaks to your heart as well, because again, all of us have fallen short. None of us are perfect. We'll continue to make mistakes until the day that we leave this earth. As long as we're on this side of eternity, we will forever make mistakes. But the objective, the goal, is that we have a repentant heart, and that, we get up each day and we make an effort to do what's right and what's pleasing in the sight of God. Honestly, the only way to do that is to trust God and to let Him lead and guide us on this journey.